Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler from Melda Production, and today I want to show you how you can use the arpeggiator in MSoundfactory. There's some things that are fairly standard that you probably know, but there's some things that maybe you didn't realize, or maybe I can enlighten you about, maybe. But we'll see. So let's get started. So basically what I have here first is I just have a normal oscillator and I have a filter. If I turn the filter off, it sounds like this. Basic. And I have just a reverb on there. Let's turn on the filter and let's make a pluck sound here. So before we get started with the arpeggiator, sorry. I'm just going to use the attack filter here, open it up, just bend this down a little bit, wherever you think is good. Turn the time up a bit. Turn the depth up so it's going up a few octaves. Let's see, about 4 octaves. Let's hear this. Okay, so that's sounding all right. So I'll leave it there. So let's actually open up the arpeggiator now, and I'll show you what it can do. So one thing you want to make sure of is when you open it up, make sure this is actually on. So you can either touch this here to turn it on, or once you're inside, just click enable. Now, when you have it here, it'll just be on this default where it's up. So if I hold it, it sounds like this. And lots of stuff I think is fairly easy to understand here, like for example the number of steps. So now it's 8 steps, 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. I can change the rate, so how fast it is. So this is in 8th notes, but I could change it to 16th notes like this, like that. Octaves I think is also fairly easy to understand like this. Let me put in 16th notes. That's easy. Sequence length, you can see here, it's 32 steps, etc. But let's get into some of the more interesting things you probably want to know. In a previous video, I showed you how to use the channels. I'll try to put a card here so you can see that. But down here is really probably what you want to mess with. So I would suggest going through all these so you can familiarize yourself with this up or up to. I believe this is every other step. So instead of going from the first note to the second note to the third note, it's going to like the first note to the third note to the second note to the next note, I guess, depending on what kind of chord you're playing. Down will be like the same thing, and then you have the up downs and up down 2 and all that kind of thing. So familiarizing yourself just with the sound of this sometimes is useful. And so this can make lots of sounds just by itself. I think you probably understand that. And the velocity is how loud it is. This is all fairly easy to understand. Turn these off so you can hear differences in the velocity. If I do something like not that, this. Now if I play it, you'll hear that they're not all at the same velocity. So sometimes you want to do something like that. You can change the octaves down here. You can change the length also, and you can change the probability, which is cool sometimes. So if I move something like this, I guess, so you can hear this. Sometimes it's interesting because you can come up with some kind of random pattern. So sometimes you want to do that. But let's get into the real nitty-gritty. So of course you can go here into the presets, and there's lots of presets already there. I made some presets myself for different things, like these pedal tone things like this. And you're wondering, okay, what is this A, B, C, D, E? So what this does basically is it allows you to choose the first note, which I believe is A, the second note in the arpeggio or the chord is B, the next note is C, D, E, etc. So I could do, let's say if I do all A, it's just going to play the same note all over again. So if I'm playing a C major, C, E, G, it should just play C. Like that. And if I do C, C, or A, BC should sound like this, like that. And I can do any type of combination. But I don't think that's really the interesting thing. I think the interesting thing is I can actually use this with multiple notes and do like a chord. Like I could do something like this. I don't know. What am I doing? Anyways, do some weird stuff like this. So I'm not hitting all of them at the same time, or I could even do something where I'm hitting all of them at the same time. I should really make a blank one of these so I don't have to clear this all the time. So one of the things I might want to do is something like this. I'll put in a quick Euclidean rhythm. So here we go. So now you see it's like, oh, I'm doing some rhythmic stuff with chords. And of course you could do that and extend that. And one of the great things is also, if I extend the sequence or the steps, I can use that with the other things at the same time. So I could do something like this, 16, for example. I'll just play it. I have it already in my DAW like this. And so by putting those together, you can come up with all sorts of interesting things. But let's do something a little bit more advanced. So let's take that same pattern and let's do something else, but let's use it in, or actually let's do that in a different way. So let's put in the exact same pattern here and think, okay, I want to do something similar, but I'm going to use 8. But now let's try using the banks. And you're thinking, okay, what are the banks? What does this mean? So these are a way to keep a pattern, and by changing the bank, you can change the pattern, but you can actually automate this. So in real time, you could change it. So let's say this is bank 1. I'm going to go into bank 2 here, and make sure you don't hit this. Use the other presets if you want to change it. I don't think there's actually too many in there, but I copied and pasted some myself. So I'm going to do up, down. Okay. So now this will be bank 1. Bank 2. And I can go and I can automate what I want in the DAW, or I could use a mod or something to change it. So let's say if I have multi-parameter 1 here, let's say arp pattern, right? I'll just go into here and I'll find the arpeggiator and just choose bank. And I want to change between 1 and the value of 2, like this. Now, of course, there's 64 banks, so you could do more than this if you want, which might be really interesting. But just for demonstration purposes, let's just use 1 and 2 here, okay? Now, let me actually, can I label this? No, that's good. I'll just leave it how it is. Let me do first parameter. Okay, so you have 1, and if I move it to the other side, it'll be 2. Now, what I can do is, let's actually turn my automation on, like write automation here. I'll play this and then I'll move it to part 2 like this. Like that. And so now you see the automation is written in there. If I want to change that, of course, in your DAW, you could. I'm sure I'm not doing this on beat, so I probably have to quantize it. But I still didn't say that correctly, but you get the idea. But you can do all that in there, and using this, now I'm created like a more interesting pattern than what I normally would. So just go into here and set this to read, and we can play it again like this. Like that. And so you can see there's some interesting patterns there. So that's one really cool thing you can do with that. And so that's kind of the power of banks. You can use that to create interesting rhythmic patterns like that, or you could even use it for different sections. So if you had the piano and you want to arpeggiate the piano part during one section and the next part play a rhythmic part, you could do that. using this, and it's really easy and it saves you lots of time as opposed to actually writing out all this stuff in MIDI, which is annoying, at least for me. But I'll show you one more thing. So if I go into here, let me go back to default. You'll notice here where it has semitones. And there's actually lots of things you can do with this, especially in conjunction with the tempo. So these are just going to play up from a certain, like a semitone from the root, I guess. So if I have this as the root A, and then the next one, 1 semitone, 2 semitone, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. So now if I play something on my keyboard, that's interesting. But just by itself, like, I wouldn't use that. But one cool thing you can use this for is special effects. So I'll show you over here. So this is a device I made called a Chipper. It's just like a chiptune style synth. It makes like old digital style sounds like you'd hear on an old game console like this. Like that. But I actually use that concept of using the sequencer in here to make something hopefully interesting. So let's look in the effects. So this first one I made, it sounds like this. So you perhaps remember that, but look in here. You can see all I'm doing is starting here and just going straight up 1 octave. And you notice I have the tempo here. So this isn't synced to the tempo in the DAW. By using this at off, it syncs to the tempo in the DAW, but you can move it up however you want. So I can have it slower. Or here. So you can set that however you want. And I did another one, same thing, just down. Or this one. So it's cool for those things, or like this, the fast diminished arpeggio. So you can see here, I'm starting on the root of whatever you're playing. I can just play 1 note for this actually. And then I'm going up in a diminished arpeggio. So it sounds like this. Or the same thing with our augmented arpeggio. And let me see, fast minor arp, same thing with minor arp. Or another interesting one, just a chromatic sequence. So there you go. I think I have maybe some other ones here in the arp section like this, like this. So that's some of the cool things that you can do with the arpeggiator to create all sorts of like new and interesting things. So mess around with the tempo, the different modes, like here the semitones or the ABCD. So you can come up with your own patterns and not only do just basic arpeggiation, but do some advanced and interesting stuff. So hope you like this. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave those down below. And until next time, see you.